Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to this week's video. And I'm really excited about this one because we're going to touch on a use case that is deeply valuable for clients. And a lot of advisors usually don't have native tax analysis or tax optimization solutions within their firm. They usually partner with someone, or some advisors do. But I think this is becoming an important discussion today. This idea of the full stack RIA, where you provide wealth management solutions, but also comprehensive tax optimization, estate planning, the whole thing, right? You become like a single stop solution. And so I'm going to talk about how tax optimization can be done rather quickly with AI, but also with accuracy, right? And so we're going to look at different prompting frameworks. And so I'm going to show you how I built out this Goldman grade advisor that can, provide this tax optimization for high net worth individuals, synthesizing a lot of information, synthesizing a lot of data, right? So you're looking at asset allocation, trust data, household data, liabilities, the whole thing. You're trying to look at a wide variety of information, and you're trying to synthesize all of that using existing laws, regulations at the state level and at the federal level, and then coming up with a clear visualization for clients. So it's a pretty heavy video, so I'm going to try to provide some education here around different prompting frameworks and why an agentic solution is the ideal solution for tax optimization, and how you can use it in your chatbot interactions as well. So let me just get right to it. First of all, just like a disclaimer here, I am not an RIA. This is not to be considered as tax advice or investment advice. So please, just consider that. Okay, let me start with some approaches here. So first, we want to start with simple use cases. So in this case, a prompting technique that probably everybody uses, but there's no official, you may not be aware of this official terminology, but it's called zero shot prompting, where you essentially throw in a prompt and the AI gives you a response based off training data it already has, right? A good example here would be, let me start on this next line. So you want to define your task first, right? So that's pretty obvious. You can see right here with this screen, but let me just jump right into step 2. Yes. Okay. So is it a simple task and is it well defined, right? So for example, if it's a simple task, like what's the current PTET rate here in Virginia, you can use a zero shot prompt. This is assuming that the model can fetch information from the web, or it already has the training data sufficient. It already has sufficient training data to give you the answer, right? Now, if it's a complex task, and that's what we're going to define here, what defines a complex task and what defines a simple task, and how do we use different techniques for that? So we hear it says optimize our multi-state tax structure, right? That is a complex task that requires a different type of prompting. Ideally, for a multi-state tax structure question like that, or an optimization request like that, you'd want to use a chain of thought, a reasoning structure to get the AI to respond really well. And we'll touch on that quickly. So I'm going to try to breeze through this as fast as I can so I can show you the actual dashboard, which I'm actually going to show in real time. I've not even seen it yet, but it's rendering in real time as we speak. All right, so zero shot prompting is, simple, perfect for tax rates and deadlines, form requirements, basic definitions, and simple calculations, right? You ask the questions directly, no examples needed. You get immediate answers, best for factual information. All right. So when do you need to use multi-step reasoning, right? Like we discussed, if there's a calculation that needs to be done, that's when you want the AI to actually think through it step by step, because you don't want any errors in it, right? We think step by step when it comes to problems. When it comes to arithmetics or algebra, complex calculations, we have a formula for it. We think step by step. That's kind of the same thing that we're doing here with multi-step reasoning. We're getting the AI to think in coherent steps, so it's well organized and it solves one problem at a time. Now, there are different types of techniques that you can use for that, right? One is few shot prompting. So maybe you already have a a example that you can use. Maybe you already have a flow to, running a tax optimization strategy for a client. In that case, you can throw in a simple prompt like this, categorize business expenses, calculate cascading tax savings from PT election, and then you can actually show examples, right? You can show examples of how you would do it, so the AI can just simulate that, right? Now, that is that's a simple strategy. You've probably heard of this prompting technique before, but for us to really call this agentic, the AI needs to decide what prompting framework it wants to use for the use case and go and run that, right? You verify the data, you can verify if it's actually reasoning across the information properly, and you can be the verification layer, right? You as the advisor. But we want the agent to really think autonomously for the prompting framework, right? We're not having it, provide that direct advice to the client, but we're having it think through a complex problem on its own and deciding what framework it should use. And that's what we're going to discuss. And that's what I'm going to show you in the dashboard as well, and in the system, in the prompt that was written, the agentic prompt that was written to actually get the AI to decide how to figure out a tax strategy for a high net worth individual. And we'll jump into that in a minute. But I hope this is making sense. So few shot prompting, it's providing examples, like I said, right? So here's an example of a few shot. Few shot is essentially a few examples, and that's essentially what that technical term means. Show examples of what you want and let the AI apply the pattern, right? So what use cases is it perfect for? Expense categorization, document classification, pattern recognition, consistent formatting. You provide examples and AI learns the pattern. Pretty straightforward. Okay, I need to move through this faster. Okay, so what about problems that are computational heavy? Right? So that means running through complex calculations. Maybe you throw in multiple asset classes. Maybe you want to bring in the client's estate planning documents, their 529 plan, like just different data sources, and you want it to run through a systematic computation and come up with a really accurate number. Here we want to use program of thought prompting, which is essentially getting the AI to use code to run its calculations. So in this case, it would use Python to extract all the data and run calculations. When you're using Python and you're using code to run calculations, the accuracy dramatically increases. Like it becomes a very accurate workflow now. And so getting the AI to run these computations with code in a step-by-step format and then produce the end answer for you, right? So here you want to use, so here tax savings calculations, multi-entity optimization. These are kind of heavy tax optimization use cases, right? But not for strategic focus, not for tax strategy development, risk analysis, anything to do with strategy. You probably don't need to use program of thought, right? So again, these are different prompting frameworks, and the AI is going to use it by itself. So like I said, it breaks it down into calculation steps, shows the mathematical reasoning, verifies each step, and it's perfect for tax savings calculations, multi-entity optimization, depreciation analysis, financial projections. Again, these are computation-heavy, mathematical-heavy calculations, and program of thought is a step-by-step computational approach with very clear, transparent logic and reasoning, so you can see how the AI is running through different numbers and giving you the answer that you need. And you definitely want to be able to verify that, right? All right, so okay, so does it require, okay, so this is essentially for non-computational multi-step tasks, like a multi-year tax strategy or an entity restructuring plan. You can use a technique called plan and solve, right? Essentially, what plan and solve really is getting the AI to devise a plan first and then solving it step by step. So you give it a big problem and you say, run this multi-state structure or this multi-year tax strategy for this client, but then first come up with a plan on how you would solve it, right? You want the AI to come up with a plan on itself and then devise an execution plan to solve for it step by step. It's really simple. That's why it's called plan and solve. You get the AI to create a plan first, Most folks will throw a big problem at an AI and expect it to come up with the solution immediately. It can, but we want to reduce inaccuracies. We want to reduce hallucination, and it's proven through multiple research papers that if you get AI to think step by step and you get it to plan really well and do it sequentially, you can improve your accuracy rate by several orders of magnitude, I would assume. Anyways, so when do we use plan and solve? Like I said, for structuring, restructuring plans, multi-year tax, these are just examples of when you can use it, right? Anything that's complex, you could use plan and solve. You want it to come up with a plan for first. I think this also applies to financial planning use cases. I mean, like, you meet a client for the first time, you get the basic data from them, and you can ask the AI, come up with a plan on how you would create this financial plan. So you're getting it to create a plan about how it would come up with a financial plan, as opposed to creating the financial plan right off that first prompt, right? So if there's no logical analysis that's needed, and if you want to just run through analysis or run through tax implications, you can use chain of thought here again. Again, like this might be a little too much. There's a lot of information here, a lot of prompting techniques and whatnot. But I'm just running through this with you so you have more context about what the agent is going to be using to come up with outcomes for you, right? It's important for you to know, what are the different prompting frameworks it's been trained on. And I've given the agent all these prompting frameworks, and it's going to autonomously decide which one to use. All right, plan and solve plus decomposition. So this is breaking complex problems into manageable parts, like I said, and then solving it systematically, right? Decomposition is essentially taking a big task and creating several subtasks out of it. Similar to plan and solve, but so here you can see over here, there's an example, right? Current state, review existing structure, regulatory changes, entity optimization, implementation, and the result is comprehensive strategy with specific action items, right? So plan and solve is what you want to use for complex, multifaceted problems. So if you're looking across, if you're trying to analyze data across, tax, if you're trying to analyze data across, say, a client's estate planning documents, their assets, liabilities, you're looking at their trust structures, you're looking at, maybe their future goals, needs, and desires. If you're looking at solving at that level, you want to be able to use plan and solve. You want to come up with a plan first, right? If you have multifaceted problems that need structured thinking and systematic execution, that's what you want to use, right? That's exactly what's written here. And so plan and solve plus decomposition for really complex tasks. And you may not need it. Sometimes if you just use plan and solve, you should be good to go. But task decomposition is the notion of taking a big task and creating several subtasks and then having it solve systematically. It's kind of similar, I would say, in a lot of ways, but I'll let you decide. Now, again, chain of thought, like we mentioned before, like we went through this earlier, and I'm just going to touch on it really quickly. But, these are like examples of what it's perfect for, or what these use cases are like ideal for, but you can decide how you want to use these frameworks. But here's an example of a reasoning chain, right? Client has 15 million estate, exceeding 12.92 million exemption, excess 2.8 million subject to 40% tax. Gifting strategy could reduce tax estate below exemption. Systematic gifting program could eliminate tax exposure. So it's a lot of stuff going on here, right? And if you want to run sequential reasoning, you want to give it really good context as well, which is why like client-specific context is required. And I've covered this in other videos before, but if you're concerned about data retention and data privacy, these models, for the most part, like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, they all have strict data retention policies baked in. And you don't have to listen to the fear mongers out there who said, oh, the AI is going to take your data and train on it. No, not if you know how to like set the settings up properly so it doesn't do that. All right, I'm going to quickly run through this. Self-criticism. This is one of my favorite prompting techniques, and it's really towards the end of a workflow that you want to run self-criticism. But it's really getting the AI to think through its output, and getting the AI to analyze what it wrote itself and criticizing the output, making sure that it's accurate, looking at citations, looking at the data sources. It's kind of like giving it an internal monologue, right? Here's what you wrote. Now criticize what you wrote. I know it sounds a little weird, like why would I criticize what I wrote? But this is a good way to get AI to dramatically improve accuracy, reduce hallucinations, all that good stuff, is giving it like a self-refinement instruction or a self-criticism instruction. You want the AI to review itself, right? Some research papers talk about LLM as a judge, right? You have multiple LLMs to do different tasks. Then you have one LLM that works as a judge, looking at all those sources and answers and making sure that the answers are coherent. It's kind of similar here, except you're getting the AI to think on its own and come up with its own reflection, come up with its own self-criticism. This is really useful for high-stake use cases, because the AI could miss out one or two important points that could get you in real trouble. So push it to the max, get it to self-verify. One other thing that I've used before is chain of verification prompting. So I will tell the AI, run a chain of verification loop over this data and make sure that it's all accurate and correct. That's another way to think about it. All right, so we're getting towards the end. Self-criticism, like I mentioned before, it adds a criticism layer on the AI's output itself and validates itself. You want it to review and validate its own output, right? All right, so you have this final framework selection. You have zero-shot prompting, few-shot prompting. Zero-shot prompting is a single prompt. You throw into the AI, you get a response. Few-shot, you give it examples. Program of thought, you use Python for running mathematical calculations. Plan and solve is that you get the AI to first create a plan and then come up with an execution and then execute the plan step by step. So each step of the plan is executed step by step. Very similar to chain of thought reasoning too, but chain of thought is just going through a problem step by step. Like you give it the prompt, and in the prompt itself, you will kind of already have a plan and you're already giving it instructions of how to work through a problem step by step. Again, I use that word step by step a lot, but I think one could argue that you could kind of synthesize all of AI prompting today to like step by step sequential reasoning. That is the best way to synthesize it in like one phrase. And then finally, self-criticism is your verification layer, right? These are not 100% bulletproof prompting techniques. This field is dramatically changing every other week, as you know, but these are really good best practices. And there are different nuances around these prompting frameworks, but we want an agent to essentially ingest your data and decide which framework to use. And that's what we're going to do now. So we're going to go into Perplexity Labs and we're going to see what the AI did. All right, so what I did here is, hopefully you can see my screen. I gave Perplexity this prompt, and keep in mind that this is running on a Goldman expert for Virginia business owners. And so I trained this specific Perplexity space to think like a Goldman grade agentic tax optimization expert for Virginia business owners. And so you want to have state-specific AI agents because it should be able to parse across federal tax law, Virginia tax law, look at the client's portfolio, and then give you comprehensive information, right? Comprehensive responses, dashboards, presentations, answers, whatever you need. And so it already has this context, and we can look at the prompt right here. But you can see here I have a detailed prompt, right? It has a role and mission. It has context and guardrails. It has information intake, so it knows what kind of information it's ingesting. It has an agentic loop, right? This is really important. We covered this in the prompting framework, but here it is. It's already been given these instructions to plan, search, analyze, draft, self-critique, and deliver, right? We went through these prompting frames. This is why I wanted to have the first 20, 15 minutes dedicated to just that quick training, so you have an idea of what's going on here. And then you have mandatory browse triggers, right? PTET is pretty important here in Virginia, and the mechanics of it and how it works. conformity, deconformity, QSBS, of course, like this is something a lot of advisors are talking about. Virginia credits, trust and residency, local classification for personal and property tax, and the output standard, right? So I've given it an output standard as well, and ethics and risk, right? So this is like the prompt, and I think I will share it in my LinkedIn newsletter so you can copy paste and understand kind of how I'm using it. And just so you know, just for extra context, I have these 3 documents that I've already fed it. And these documents were generated by parsing through like 2,000 plus sources on the best resources for tax law and for tax optimization, right? All right, so let's just jump right into it. I've not actually had a chance to test it yet because I had this baking while we were like doing that first bit. But I've given it synthetic data, right? I've given it a lot of information. You can see right here, these are the files I've fed it. Income, entities, household, positions, and a few more information sets. We'll maybe touch on that. But this is the app that the AI generated for me, that Perplexity created for me. So you can see I can click on full screen here. And this is for a hypothetical family called the Rivera family that has a net worth between $5 to $25 million, right? You can see right there, the net worth, federal rate, current income, BA tax rate. But it's identified like potential tax savings to the tune of 1.6 million, right? And so QSBS has been outlined immediately, cost segregation studies, because you're in real estate. Virginia credits, what are the different credits that can qualify for? Charitable front loading, PTET election, Florida domicile change. I think this is pretty cool, but again, that was 0, but you have a timeline to an implementation timeline, right? So this is like super valuable. Just think about presenting this to your business owner prospects. Assuming they are your client already, you have that data. You have, you can securely use that data to provide compliant advice, holistic advice. Now, if you have all this data, you can run it through a model like Perplexity, give it very specific instructions, and have it come up with this dashboard that is personalized to your business owner client, right? And so this is extremely valuable, I think, for business owners who are busy working on the day-to-day, don't have time to look at tax optimization, estate planning optimization, or any of these tax saving strategies like the way you can as an advisor. And so I think this is like really useful. You can check by priority and timeline for an implementation checklist. And let's just go back to Perplexity here, but it's got an optimization plan as well. So it has a dashboard, of course, but it's got an optimization plan here that you can look at as well, right? I'm not going to go into the details of what this plan actually includes because this was for a synthetic household, but I think you get the drift of what's going on here. Now, let me touch on steps. This is huge, and I'm going to finish off in this section here. It read 11 attached files, right? So that was all the files that I gave it. These were synthetic CSV files. You can see all the information here that was given: financial positions, income sources, assets, liabilities, and estate planning structures, right? And then develop a tax optimization plan. Notice that it wrote Python to run those initial calculations. It most likely used a program of thought technique to ingest all of that data and run these mathematical calculations and come up with its responses. And then it did research, right? It did live research to like look at actual entity tax in 2025. Looked at Virginia specific depreciation. Again, ran some more calculations, did more research, created a comprehensive analysis, and then built the application. So this is the JavaScript file. This is the custom CSS, and it built the dashboard at the end of it. So it ran the calculations and then rendered a real-time dashboard for us. So this is what's possible for you today as advisors. You can take advantage of tools like this, but the tough part is going to be coming up with specific prompts around your compliance needs and coming up with very direct instructions so the AI has, clear context of what it should go and achieve. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. It was a little longer than what I typically create here, but I will add screenshots of this, and maybe I will also hyperlink this dashboard so you can play around with it in the LinkedIn newsletter. So Thank you for watching.